And we'll start talking about the Brighton game, and we'll start off with you, Ariane. Do you think that Spurs were lucky to take the 3 points on the day?
I don't think so. I think what kind of happened on the reaction to the performance was a lot of negativity from the previous performances and um, a bit of obviously the scoreline is important, but there was a very large kind of over importance. I don't know what the word. There's a word that I can't think of right now, but people were kind of making the scoreline until the 96th minute too big, because I think more than anything, Brighton were lucky to be 1-0 ahead. Not that they were playing poorly. They were playing better than us in the first 10, 15 minutes where they did end up getting that goal, but it came from penalty. And after that penalty, they created absolutely nothing besides the Fati miss at the very end. Besides that, they did nothing all game. And it was some periods of possession dominance that didn't amount to much. And when we had the ball, I think especially when like towards the beginning of that, like right before the Kulusevski substitution, the triple substitution, and kind of towards the tail end of that first half, I thought every time we got the ball, we looked very dangerous going forward. And uh, there was a plenty of times where you played this one pass properly, though you played even some misses just with this one extra thing, and we score on another day plenty more. If Son, for example, instead of Richarlison, I'm wearing a Richarlison shirt right now. If instead of Richarlison, it was Son up top, it would have been a completely different game. I think if we had his finishing, his technique, his first touch, but Richarlison brings something different to the game. But I don't think that's what we needed that game, and so we struggled a little bit. But in the end, guess who ended up creating that goal anyway? It was Son. So I think because of some personnel issues and some like catching up the substitution, up the speed issues, just some small things here and there, and we got the result we deserved. I don't think it was lucky. I think it was coming, and I think we left it late, and that's sometimes what happens.
You said it was coming, but I mean, when we did score that goal in the last minute, it was against the run of play, wasn't it?
I disagree. I don't think so. And actually, no, because I'm trying to kind of recap the game in my head. Yes, there was a period of possession that they had, but I think when we scored that goal, it was actually right after their kind of period where we had like a good 6-7 minutes on the ball, and I think I'm a little bit kind of. It's a little bit different for me because I feel like a lot of people that I was watching the game with my dad. I was telling my dad the entire game. I was like, I feel like we're gonna make one. I feel like it's coming. I all game I had a feeling it was coming. So for me, I guess it was a little bit expected in terms of like, oh, I called it, but I honestly don't think it was against the run of play even in that moment because I remember we had especially during extra time, it was all Spurs. It didn't look during extra time. It didn't look like Brighton were going to get a winner. That's not what I felt. In around the 80th minute, it looked like Brighton might have gotten a winner, but not during extra time. So I don't think it came against the run of play.
Before we continue, Arian, some people are complaining about a bit of a low volume on your mic. So if you just maybe slightly pull it towards your mouth, that'd be great. I think just slight reposition.
Okay.
No worries.
Maybe that's better. I don't know.
In terms of what you're saying, I kind of did felt that we got away with one. I felt that, in the last 20 minutes of the game, they had a few really good chances. Ansu Fati probably should have done better with that chance he had. I think there was another one then in there as well. And me sitting at the stadium, I did kind of, at the end of the game, feel like we did get away with one there. But, I mean, where do you sit on it, Amir?
Yeah, I think I'm siding with you there, Ben, a little bit, with that one. For me, although I agree with Ariane that I don't think it was luck that, we won the game. We didn't, it wasn't a Liverpool where we got a dodgy offside and we won the game. No, it wasn't that. We won it last minute with a bit of pure magic there by Sonny and Johnson sneaking in at the back post. But there were times in that game where Brighton were just absolutely dominating us, and our press wasn't exactly working and they were passing it around way too easy for my liking. I think if they had a bit more of a threat up front, on another day, we would have lost that or drawn. So I think we did get away with one in a way, and I think we rode our luck a little bit. And this is the thing, right? It's all well and good. We got the victory in the end, and I'm buzzing, and it's building blocks for Wolves, 100%. But for me, I want to go in. I want to see us build on it, and when we go to Wolves, like what I was saying to you, Ben, I want to see us get to a game by the 70th minute or 80th minute, and we're 2 up. That's where we need to be. Look at the other teams around us that are going out slaying teams. You know, your Arsenal, City, and Liverpool's are going out and they're putting teams to bed. We're not quite there yet. And that's where we need to build on. It's not that, you know, fantastic, we've got the last minute winner, but we need to build on it if we want to be, you know, in contention and really challenge for that top 4. We need to make sure we're coming home with the points from all these types of games. You know, teams like Wolves, Palace, Luton's, all these teams that are below us in the league, we need to be putting them to bed. Simple as that if we want 4th.
I kind of, I mean, obviously I agree with that, but in terms of back to the point, like if we were lucky to win, and I think Brighton would have been lucky to win, and I think a draw was probably a fair result on reflection of the game if you take into account everything, the whole 90 minutes. You know, both teams had spells and periods of being on top. You're looking at the chances created and the XG. I mean, the XG wasn't too dissimilar between the both teams. I think Brighton was like 1.25 or something, and Spurs was like 1.5 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Spurs did have more shots. Sorry, Ariane?
You could look at the open play expected goals. Brighton had like 0.4 on open play.
Yeah, I get that, but you know, I also think that Brighton did create better chances throughout the game. I do think that, like that Ansu Fati chance that I bring it back to. Go on.
Well, but I mean, that's the only chance you can actually think. Like, think about the game, right? And think about another Brighton chance that wasn't the Ansu Fati chance.
Vicario made a couple saves. Vicario did make a couple saves.
Yeah, in the first half. He did in the first half. One from Matoma, one really early from Welbeck. Apart from that, there was one late one from Buonanotte when he had a shot deflected wide, which could have been dangerous. I did think when Spurs were on top, we were better than Brighton when Brighton were on top. That's what I would say. I think the way we played in the last bit of the first half and the first 25 minutes of the second half was better than how Brighton played when they were on top. I thought we were causing them a lot more trouble. We were more dangerous. The goals we scored were obviously really good moves as well. You've got to take that into account. We actually opened them up with some really good football, which Brighton weren't. I mean, Brighton did well, but I don't think they did the kind of moves obviously that we did to open them up. And I think when we were in our period where we were dominating, we were pressing really high and we were opening them and we were creating chances, I just thought we looked better than Brighton did when Brighton were on top. Obviously, you never want to have any period of the game where you're playing second fiddle and Brighton are dominating and we're struggling to get the ball. And there were definitely periods of that. But Brighton are one of the best teams in the league on the ball. That can happen if you're not completely on your game and you're not as physical as maybe we were in certain periods. I think it was kind of definitely an ebb and flow in terms of who had control of the game. But in terms of chances created, I think definitely Spurs, for me, created more chances than Brighton did. I think when Brighton had their moments to press us in really aggressively, and when we had our moments, I think we did it more consistently. I think Brighton had a couple of moments where they obviously, in the first half, they won possession on in our half a couple of times and created chances. But I think we did it loads of times, but there was a number of times we didn't take full advantage of it, which was quite frustrating. We had Maddison, playing beautiful Trivela through balls to Richarlison, which he should have made more of. We had a lot of moments where we actually had a lot of chances, but we forget about them because they didn't amount to much. But I think actually we probably created enough to win the game when we were on top, but because we didn't take advantage of those moments, then when Brighton take control and it's 1-1, you kind of get that feeling, we kind of had it coming. Brighton are back on top now, and we didn't take advantage when we had the advantage in the game. So we kind of got what we deserve when we're not winning. And when Brighton had that period of dominance, that I'm not going to lie, in the last 15 minutes, a part of me did feel like I'll take a draw now because Brighton looked like they were going to score. But they didn't create much, which from Arian said. They had the chance from Fati, and they kind of had a half chance from Buonanotte. But by and large, we actually defended quite well in those last 20 minutes. And Brighton did struggle to create. And then you got to say the goal we scored was a brilliant goal. Like, that has to be taken into account. It was really great build-up, from the back, all the way from Maddison to Son to Richarlison, all linking up. Everything was perfect. It was a great counter-attacking goal. And when Brighton are going to have that dominance, right, and they're going to push forward, they're going to leave that space in behind. They're going to cause risk, because Brighton are a team that don't sit back and just settle for a draw. They're going to try and get the 3 points. And if they're going to do that, then they're always susceptible to getting hit by a good quality counter-attack, and that's what we provided. So, I don't think you can say... I think on the balance of play, yeah, definitely, I would say a draw was probably a fair result, but I'm not coming away from it saying, oh, we were terrible and we definitely got away with one and we definitely didn't deserve to win. I think with the goal we scored was a great goal, and I'm just happy that we got the win. Like, I don't think it was a case of we definitely got lucky. I think on the balance, draw was probably fair, but I don't think it was a complete robbery, like some people are saying.
No, that's completely fair. But, if we don't score that goal in the last minute, right, we're not sitting there after the game being like, oh, how did we draw that game? We definitely deserved to win, It wasn't a performance like that. And you've got to give credit to the way Brighton came to our stadium. And for periods of that game, they completely out-footballed us. They were passing it around us like we weren't there, especially in those first 25 minutes. I was like, what the hell is going on here? How are they passing it around us like that? And so in that sense, we were a bit lucky to win because a draw was a fair result.
I think kind of what it is, and saying a draw is a fair result. A draw was absolutely a fair result, but I think it's one of those where a draw is a fair result, but if there was a team to win it, it would have been Spurs. You're not saying a draw is a fair result and then Brighton were the team likelier to win. You know what I mean? It's one of those where it's like, if I had to pick a team that deserved to win this more, you would have picked Spurs. I would say I would have picked Spurs as well. And I felt like we were going to get one in the whole, because I felt one coming. One thing I wanted to kind of point out was, I think a lot of the biggest thing responsible for like the performance, everyone's saying performance, was there was a period right after we scored, right after the triple substitution, and I was screaming at my TV. I lost my voice, and you can hear it during the fan show. I did not have a voice because I was screaming the whole time. Nobody ran for like 15 minutes. I didn't see one person sprint. I didn't see I don't know what that was. It literally felt like kind of during Conte and Jose ball, when as soon as we scored, we would just sit and hold out. And I don't know what it was literally. And it was players who hadn't even been during it. Maddison didn't run. Udogie didn't run. Sarr wasn't. I don't know what on earth happened there, but for some reason, and it wasn't. I credit to Brighton how they played, but it didn't even have anything to do with how Brighton were playing. Because even when we had the ball and there was no pressure, you would see nobody was moving into spaces like we'd been. I don't know, for some reason, 15 minutes right after we scored. And anybody who has the match replay can go watch it. For 15 minutes, nobody ran. I don't know what that was.
Just to counteract that, Barry, and the three players you mentioned, Maddison was set to be taken off due to fatigue, and then Udogie pulled up due to cramp, so Maddison had to stay on. And then Udogie, you mentioned Udogie, Sarr, and Maddison, right? Sarr was clearly knackered on the 70th minute. He was giving the ball away at that point. He was clearly very tired. Maddison, as I said, was set to be taken off because he was so knackered, but he had to stay on because Udogie, the other player you mentioned, he picked up cramp and he went off instead for Ben Davies. So there was clearly a lot of fatigue settling in that period. I think that definitely contributed, and that can happen against a very intense team like Brighton. You got to remember, everyone's saying, "Oh, Brighton played through us." Brighton played great football and they kept the ball. Look, that's what Brighton do. They're a brilliant footballing team. They're also ahead of us not ahead of us, but they're further down the line when it comes to being together as a team. They've been being together now for nearly 18 months under De Zerbi. So they're much more of a well-oiled machine in terms of how they play. They know their positions. They know their football a lot better than we do. Not to say that we're not good. We are good and we're doing brilliant to be at the level we are at the moment, but doesn't mean that we should be ahead of a team who've been together for 18 months just because we're doing well. I know we have better players, don't get me wrong, and the way we play football hopefully is more conducive going forward to winning games and stuff like that, but Brighton are a very, very well coached team. De Zerbi is a very intense manager. He's been he's been well lauded for the last 18 months as being one of the best attacking managers in the league, and for what he's done with Brighton. So it's no surprise to me, even though they have had a mixed season in terms of results, that they can come to the Tottenham Stadium and be confident in the way they're playing and have periods of dominance, because they were waiting for us, Brighton. They wanted us to play how we played. They want us to press them. They want us to go at them, because what it's going to do is it's going to allow them to play through the press. They're one of the best press-resistant teams in the league. So we kind of played into their hands a bit, but to counteract that, we knew we were going to play into their hands, and we had to be prepared for that. And at some periods we weren't, but we did kind of grow into the game, and we did end up taking control at times, and that has to be respected.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm really happy you actually mentioned that, because it's one of those things where it's like, look, you have to remember that our team is going through a bunch of physical limitations and a bunch like Udogie. He's not been injured, but he's been playing 90 minutes every game pretty much. Mm-hmm. So that's one way. He's fatigued. Sarr just came back from an international tournament. Madison
Porro
just
as
came
well.
back from injury. And the reason I mentioned those players, Porro as well. The reason I kind of mentioned those players specifically, though, is because they weren't the ones that were under Jose and Conte. So I was like, it can't be coached. It can't be habit. It has to be another reason. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's like, oh, well, there you go. There's the reason, right? These players, they're either just coming back from injury, or they've had to fill in for an injury crisis, so they're playing every fucking game, or they just came back from an international tournament, like, some who had to sit on the bench. So that's probably one of the reasons where, again, you're saying, oh, why was the performance so lackluster? It's like, look, these players are complete. It's like a second preseason. Someone I speak to last kind of referred to this period as like a second kind of preseason for us, where we're getting a lot of players back, and we have to kind of get them back up to speed again for a bunch of different reasons, because we're going to have more squad depth. We're going to have players who are coming back from tournaments, injuries, all that stuff. So we have to kind of need them all together another time. And you can see why, like you said, it's a little bit ebb and flow, because we're kind of giving it away, and we have to kind of understand each other a bit better again.
Yeah, and it's weird, isn't it? Like, even in that game, there's still like combinations that we haven't seen together yet. Like, isn't that the first time we've seen Bentancur, Sarr, and Madison together? Like, is it like, even we're halfway through the season, like, and that's going to keep happening because we've had so many injuries throughout the season. So, like, there's still a kind of that's what I'm saying. Like, Brighton have been together for so long, yet I know we're 7 months into the project, we're still having players who haven't even played together yet, like, kind of find their rhythm with each other. And I'm not saying it's a massive excuse as to why you shouldn't be winning games, or why you're playing badly, but it's just a process you have to go through. And the fact that we're still picking up points and wins, I think, is something to be lauded, rather than something that, oh, we're not as good as Man City or Liverpool or Arsenal. Well, of course we're not. Why would we be at this stage?
But we're playing a Brighton side who have picked up 12 points in 12 games. 12 points from 12 games all season. They're not as good and as fluid as they were last season. They're going through their own injury problems as well. Like, they're not on good form. They've just got battered 4-0 to Luton away from home. In this calendar year, they've only beaten one side away from home, and that's Sheffield United. So, I mean, we should be winning a game like this.
And we did
100%. Win. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but this is the thing, right? If we continue to allow teams to come to our patch and dominate the way Brighton did, we're not going to get away with last-minute winners week in, week out. This is where the dominance of the Cities, Liverpools, and dare I say it as well, Arsenal, after a few of their performances, that's the level that we need to get to. Yeah, we're not quite there yet. You're all spot on. We're a work in progress. We've had all the injuries. We've had the suspensions. We've had the AFCONs, the Asia Cups. So now it really is time to push on and start trying to kill games off, and that's what I want to see against Wolves. I really want to see us put them to bed. I would snap your hand off for a 2-goal lead by the 75th minute for sure.
And I think that's what Maddison said after the game. He said he's dying for just a comfortable 3-0 home win and not all this late drama all the time. And I think obviously that's what we want to get to, but that takes time, and it's not always going to, especially with all the problems we've had. And I think anyone expecting us to be on the level of the top three. Of the fact that we're only 5 points away from them is incredible, in my opinion. If we were sitting here, 10 points away or 15 points away, I don't even think people would bat an eye, because that's probably where we should be. But the fact that we're even close to them at this stage just shows what a good job Postecoglou is doing, because we were absolutely nowhere near them last season, nowhere near. We were miles away, and now that gap is significantly closed, which is amazing.
But here's the thing, Sim, right? The thing that's more important to me as a fan, it's not where we are, in the league, if it's fourth, fifth, or third at the moment. To me, the exact position doesn't really matter at this stage. To me, what I'm looking at is what Ange has actually done as he's come in here. The transformation of the club, the unity that he's brought within the fan. We were all divided a year ago. Levy in, Levy out, Enoch this, Enoch that. Everyone was all over the place. Everyone was arguing with everyone. And he's just come in, and like a magician with a wand, he's come in, he's done his magic. And it's not just the first team, right, guys? I want to reiterate this. The under-21s, the under-18, everyone is on fire. This club is going places. We are building to really take this club to the next level. We have everything
100%.
in place to take this club to the next level. We have all the facilities. We have the best stadium in the world. We have all these business deals going on. It's just about adding to the squad, giving Ange what he wants, and building on what we have, and taking it game by game, really, lads. We haven't got a crazy schedule now. There's no cup competitions. We can just focus on the league, get to the summer, build, and we see where we go next season. And, the sky's the limit with Ange.
And also, just to touch on, in terms of people's complaints about how we played maybe against Brighton and maybe our recent form, as much as I'm positive in general about the performance, maybe more positive than other people, I do realise obviously there were periods where we weren't doing the right things, and I think Ange knows that as well. I don't think Ange is coming out after the game and saying, "Oh, we deserved the win. It was a great performance." Like he said after, I don't know if you saw his interview. He was asked after the game, now you have, after a win like that, would it be better to just get back in the swing of things in a midweek game and build on that momentum? Or was it good that you have like a free week? And he said, after that performance, we're going to need a week. That's what he said. So clearly he's not happy with the performance. Clearly he wants better. But so I think Ange is aware that this team is still a work in progress, and we need more time and we need all of that. So as much as I'm positive about it, I still know that there are flaws definitely in that performance and we need to improve on it. But I think there are definitely more reasons to be positive about it than negative.
Oh,
why do you think that keeps happening though? Because the last two home games now, our first halves have been just completely lackluster. You look at the Brentford game, and now you look at the Brighton game. Why does this keep happening at home?
It's a difficult one to answer. Teams obviously come prepared for you, and they, maybe teams are starting. I wouldn't say working us out, but they're going to be more aware of how we play. They're going to be we're definitely coming like a set way. Teams know how we're going to set up now, and they're getting more used to it. They're planning for it, and maybe it just takes some adjusting to during the game. I don't think it's just that. If you remember, at the beginning of the season, in that game, in that 10-game run, I remember Man United at home. First half, we were definitely second best, and we could have been behind in that first half. We turned it around. It's all about how Ange sees things, how he makes little tweaks and changes to gain control of the game. So sometimes we can get it from the start, but recently it just hasn't been that way. But it's hard to put your finger on why exactly what has changed. We need to be starting games quicker. I think we're trying to. It's usually what happens, I find, is we have a very quick 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of the game. Then the opposition take control. And then
that happened at Brentford, at Everton. And didn't really happen at Brighton though.
It didn't really happen too much at Brighton, but I don't know. It's hard to put your finger on why exactly we're struggling at the moment in first halves, but it seems to be something that is definitely a bit of an issue. Ange does seem to be rectifying it at half time, which is positive, but obviously we can't be giving the opposition 45 minutes. Although what I would say is against Brighton, for those last 15 minutes of the half, we were definitely on top, and we could have equalised easily in those last 15 minutes.